How to be a good person. The world doesn't remember what you said. It remembers what you did. In the silence of your darkest hour, when no one is watching, when praise is distant and criticism absent, that moment defines your character. That moment reveals who you truly are. Look around you. We live in a world increasingly engineered to reward the superficial. Likes over substance, appearance over depth, words over actions. The currency of goodness has been devalued in an economy of instant validation. But deep in your soul, you know this truth. Being good isn't about appearing good. It's about living with integrity when nobody's filming, when no audience exists to applaud your virtue. Carnegie understood this decades ago. The rare individual who unselfishly tries to serve others has an enormous advantage. Not the individual who speaks about service. Not the one who posts about kindness. The one who silently, consistently serves. The one who acts. Think of Lincoln walking miles to return pennies. Of Mother Teresa washing the wounds of the forgotten. Of the neighbor who shovels your walkway before you wake. None did it for the camera. None did it for praise. They did it because goodness doesn't request permission or recognition. It simply acts. Your journey to becoming truly good begins with this understanding. Goodness is not performative. It is transformative. First of yourself, then of the world around you. The foundation, self-awareness. Before you can be good, you must know yourself. Completely, honestly, without flinching. From your shadows, the ancients weren't being poetic when they inscribed, "Know thyself" at Delphi. They were giving us the first commandment of meaningful existence. When Henry Ford revolutionized manufacturing, he first understood his own strengths and limitations. When Disney created magic, he first confronted his own fears and failures. Their external achievements began with internal clarity. Most people never truly meet themselves. They encounter a carefully constructed persona, an avatar designed to navigate social expectations. They see their highlight reel edited for public consumption, but goodness requires brutal honesty with yourself first. Tonight, when you're alone, ask yourself, what motivates my kindness? Is it genuine concern for others? Is it the warm glow of being seen as virtuous? Is it guilt? Is it obligation? There are no wrong answers here. Only dishonest ones. This isn't comfortable work. The mind resists this excavation. But as Carnegie taught, if you want to gather honey, don't kick over the beehive. Confronting yourself isn't about self-flagellation. It's about clarity. It's about standing on solid ground before you attempt to lift others. The truly good person understands their own darkness. They've named their demons. They've traced the roots of their resentments, their jealousies, their pettiness, not to indulge them, but to transcend them. The mindset. Abundance over scarcity now. Watch closely as the average mind operates from scarcity. There's not enough time to help, not enough energy to listen, not enough resources to share. This mindset sees goodness as depleting, as diminishing. It creates the illusion that kindness comes at a cost you cannot afford. But the exceptional mind, the mind of Carnegie, of Gandhi, of every true force for good, operates from abundance. They understood what psychological research now confirms. Compassion generates energy. Helping others fuels you. Kindness creates resources that scarcity consciousness cannot fathom. Think of it this way. Has anger ever truly replenished you? Has bitterness ever actually made you stronger? Has indifference ever genuinely enhanced your life? Of course not. These states drain you, while acts of goodness, despite requiring effort, somehow leave you more capable, not less. Napoleon Hill, after studying the most successful individuals of his era, concluded that service to others was the hidden, engine of achievement, not a detour from success, the very road to it. The shift from scarcity to abundance, thinking happens in an instant, yet requires a lifetime to master. It begins with a simple question: what can I give? Not, what can I get? Ask this question upon waking. Ask it before meetings. Ask it when encountering strangers. Watch how it transforms ordinary interactions into extraordinary opportunities. The practice: small acts, consistently performed. Goodness isn't grand gestures. It isn't the charitable donation that makes headlines. It isn't the one-time volunteer day that floods your social media. Those have their place. But true goodness lives in the small, consistent choices you make when fatigued, when stressed, when no one would blame you for choosing differently. Andrew Carnegie gave away his fortune, yes. But his true legacy was the daily discipline of progressive generosity that preceded his grand philanthropy. The muscle of goodness strengthened through consistent exercise. Consider the Japanese concept of kaizen, improvement through small, constant steps. Apply this to goodness. Today, make one person feel truly seen. Tomorrow, listen without interrupting. The day after, perform one act of service that brings you no direct benefit. Small ripples create tsunamis over time. You'll fail at this. There will be days when impatience wins, when judgment prevails, when selfishness seems the only rational choice. But remember what Carnegie taught us about mistakes. The successful man will profit from his mistakes and try again in a different way. Your failures in goodness aren't evidence of your unworthiness. They're opportunities for recalibration. The mathematician who makes no errors creates no mathematics. The person who never fails at goodness attempts no significant goodness at all the challenge. Goodness. When it's hard, anyone can be good when it's easy. Anyone can be kind when they feel appreciated. Anyone can be generous from their excess. The test of character comes when goodness demands sacrifice, when kindness must push through resistance, when generosity must come from your necessary rather than your surplus. History remembers Oskar Schindler, not because he was good during peacetime prosperity, but because he maintained his humanity when the world around him had abandoned its own. Viktor Frankl found meaning and purpose in a concentration camp. Mandela practiced forgiveness after decades of unjust imprisonment. These examples seem extreme, but they illuminate an essential truth. Goodness tested is goodness strengthened. When you choose compassion despite having every justification for bitterness, when you offer understanding to someone who shows you none, when you maintain integrity while surrounded by corruption, these moments aren't just displays of goodness, they're expansions of it. Carnegie wrote, "Most of the important things in the world have been accomplished by people who have kept on trying when there seemed to be no hope at all. Apply this to goodness, when kindness seems futile, when compassion appears wasted, when integrity feels like a liability rather than an asset. These are precisely the moments when your commitment to goodness matters most." The secret? Empathy. As intelligence, most consider empathy an emotional quality. A feeling. This is a catastrophic misunderstanding. Empathy is cognitive. It's intellectual. It's perhaps the highest form of intelligence we possess. Edison's greatest invention wasn't the light bulb. It was his ability to see the world through the eyes of the everyday person whose life would be transformed by persistent, affordable light. Jobs didn't merely create technology. He empathetically understood the human desire for tools that felt like natural extensions of ourselves. True goodness requires this empathetic intelligence. It means transcending your own perspective, not just emotionally, but intellectually. It means recognizing that your reality is just one tiny aperture through which the universe can be perceived. When you encounter someone whose views seem incomprehensible, whose actions appear irrational, whose choices feel inexplicable, That's not evidence of their deficiency. It's evidence of your limited perspective. The good person doesn't dismiss what they don't understand. They recognize their understanding as incomplete. Carnegie advised, try honestly to see things from the other person's point of view, not as a technique for manipulation, but as a pathway to wisdom. The most intelligent people you'll ever meet aren't those with the highest IQs. They're those who can inhabit multiple perspectives simultaneously. Practice this today. When disagreeing with someone, stop trying to convert them. Instead, work to understand them so thoroughly that you could articulate their position better than they can. This isn't surrender, it's expansion. It's intelligence. It's goodness in action. The transformation from transaction to relationship. The average person approaches goodness transactionally. If I help now, they'll help later. If I listen today, they'll listen tomorrow. If I give here, I'll receive there. This isn't goodness. It's accounting. It's keeping a ledger where kindness becomes a currency for future withdrawal. The exceptional person understands that goodness isn't transactional. It's relational. It's not about the isolated exchange. It's about the ongoing connection. It's not about the immediate reciprocity. It's about the lasting ecosystem of mutual care you're cultivating. When Carnegie advised, be interested in others, he wasn't suggesting a technique for gaining advantage. He was revealing a truth about human fulfillment. We find our greatest satisfaction not in what we accumulate, but in what we contribute to the web of human connection. Think of your relationships. The strongest ones aren't maintained through careful tracking of who owes what. They thrive through mutual investment in each other's well-being. They flourish when the question shifts from, what have you done for me, to how are we growing together? Apply this wisdom beyond your inner circle. When you help a stranger, you're not depositing kindness in a cosmic bank account. You're strengthening the fabric of a society you inhabit. When you advocate for those you'll never meet, you're not performing abstract virtue. You're recognizing that your well-being is inseparable from collective well-being. This relational understanding of goodness transforms how you move through the world. Interactions cease being transactions and become connections. Service ceases being sacrifice and becomes participation. Helping others ceases being charity and becomes self-interest rightly understood. The discipline. Managing your internal state. Your capacity for goodness is directly proportional to your ability to manage your internal state. This isn't pop psychology. It's practical wisdom understood by every person of significant positive impact throughout history. Carnegie recognized this when he wrote, "Remember, happiness doesn't depend upon who you are or what you have. It depends solely upon what you think." He wasn't suggesting naive positivity. He was acknowledging a fundamental truth. Your perception creates your reality, and your reality determines your capacity for goodness. When you're reactive, when you're triggered, when you're consumed by your own grievances, your ability to be good to others dramatically diminishes. You cannot give what you don't first cultivate within. The great ones. Lincoln during the Ayers Civil War, King during the Civil Rights Movement, Mandela during apartheid, maintained internal clarity despite external chaos. They practiced what modern psychology calls emotional regulation, the ability to experience powerful feelings without being controlled by them. Start with your physical state. Notice how differently you treat others when exhausted versus rested, when hungry versus satiated, when rushed versus calm. The basics matter. Sleep, nutrition, movement, breath. These aren't incidental to goodness. They're foundational to it. Then, develop habits that nurture your psychological state. Carnegie emphasized gratitude long before modern research confirmed its power to recalibrate your perception. Begin each day by identifying 3 specific things you're grateful for, not vague abstractions. precise, particular blessings. This isn't spiritual bypassing. It's neural retraining. Your attention is your most valuable resource. What you repeatedly focus on literally rewires your brain. When you habitually notice problems, threats, and grievances, you build neural pathways optimized for detecting negativity. When you deliberately attend to possibilities, connections, and appreciations, you develop networks primed for constructive engagement. This isn't about denying reality's harshness. It's about developing the internal resilience to respond to that harshness with wisdom rather than reactivity. The integration, being rather than seeming. We live in the age of the personal brand, where the appearance of goodness often matters more than its reality. We've become masters of curating impressions while neglecting the substance behind them. This is the tragedy of our time. Not that people are less good, but that goodness has been reduced to performance. The antidote is integration, the alignment of your outer actions with your inner convictions. Not for show, not for validation, but because fragmentation diminishes your power and depletes your energy. When Carnegie taught principles of influence, he emphasized authenticity not as a moral imperative, but as a practical necessity. People sense inconsistency. They detect performance. They intuitively distinguish between genuine concern and its imitation. Integration means saying what you believe and believing what you say. It means making promises you intend to keep and keeping the promises you make. It means that who you are when no one is watching increasingly matches who you are under observation. This isn't perfection. Integration accommodates growth, evolution, and the messiness of being human. What it doesn't accommodate is persistent, intentional disconnection between your projected image and your lived reality. Start with small alignments. If you value compassion, catch yourself in judgment and pivot toward understanding. If you believe in integrity, honor your word, even in minor matters. If you esteem courage, take one small risk that authenticity demands. The integrated life isn't easy, but it's unburdened by the exhausting maintenance of appearances. Energy, previously consumed by managing impressions, becomes available for genuine connection and contribution. The legacy, goodness that outlives you. At life's end, the accumulations fade, the accolades quiet, the possessions disperse. What remains is the impact you've had on others, not what you gave them, but who you helped them become. Carnegie's books have sold millions, not because they offer techniques for manipulation, but because they articulate timeless principles of human dignity and connection. His legacy persists, not in buildings bearing his name, but in lives transformed by his wisdom. Your legacy of goodness won't primarily be what you achieved. It will be who you enabled, not what you owned, but what you shared, not what you controlled, but what you released. Consider this. Who helped you become who you are? Who believed in you before you believed in yourself? Who showed you kindness when you'd done nothing to earn it? These people's goodness lives in you, and your goodness will live in others long after you're gone. This isn't abstract philosophy. It's practical reality. The child you encourage today may lead with compassion tomorrow. The colleague you mentor with integrity may make decisions affecting thousands. The stranger you treat with dignity may pass that dignity to countless others you'll never meet. Goodness compounds. It multiplies. It transcends the limitations of your single life and ripples through generations. This is immortality within reach, not the preservation of your name, but the propagation of your values. The decision, beginning now. The gap between knowing and doing is vast. Many will hear these words, nod in agreement, perhaps feel momentarily inspired, and change nothing. Knowledge without application isn't wisdom. It's trivia. You stand at the crossroads of cognition and action. Before you stretches the path of passive consumption, hearing about goodness but remaining unchanged. Alongside it runs the path of transformation, converting insight into impact, one small choice at a time. Carnegie observed, inaction breeds doubt and fear. Action breeds confidence and courage. This applies powerfully to goodness. You don't think your way into being good. You act your way into it. Each choice, each interaction, each moment of presence builds the muscle of character. Start now. Not tomorrow when circumstances are perfect. Not next week when you have more time. Now, while these words still resonate, while the vision of who you might become remains clear, the world doesn't need more people who can eloquently discuss goodness. It needs those who quietly, consistently embody it. It needs you, not the hypothetical, eventually perfected version of you, but the imperfect, striving, present you, who chooses in this moment to translate understanding into action. Your life at its end will be the sum of your choices. Choose goodness, not once in dramatic fashion, but daily in quiet determination. Not perfectly, but persistently. Not for recognition, but for impact. This is how you become good. This is how you transform your corner of the world. This is how, long after you're gone, your goodness continues to reverberate through lives you'll never know you touched. Begin now. The rest follows.